We've all been told that if you work hard and do your job well, you'll be safe and successful. But today, that's just not enough. There are more people than ever who can do the same work, and technology and global competition mean even the best skills can be replaced overnight. So what makes some people truly stand out? The ones everyone wants to keep, the ones whose absence leaves a real hole. This book was written to answer that question. The Linchpin, How to Become Irreplaceable, isn't about being the smartest person in the room or having some rare gift. It's about how everyday people can make themselves so valuable that their teams and organizations rely on them, no matter what their job is. After years of watching what actually works, I found the real difference comes down to knowing what makes you unique, taking real responsibility, following through on your promises, communicating clearly, and always looking for ways to make things better. And underneath all of that, the people who last and succeed are the ones who act with honesty, respect, and courage, even when it's uncomfortable. This book is a hands-on guide, but not in a rigid or complicated way. As you read, you'll learn how to uncover what sets you apart and use it in your work. You'll see how small shifts in responsibility can completely change how others view you. You'll pick up simple habits that make you the person others know they can count on. You'll discover how clear communication can calm stress and build trust. You'll learn how helping not just your boss, but your peers and customers makes you valuable across your entire workplace. And you'll see why your character, how you behave when the pressure is on or when no one is watching, becomes the foundation of everything. You don't need to be a natural leader or a superstar to become irreplaceable. You just need to know how to create real value and build trust, one step at a time. Every chapter is filled with practical, everyday tools you can use immediately, no matter where you work or what your role is. Don't settle for being just another name on the list. The world needs people who are dependable, honest, and willing to do the hard work of making things better. This book will help you become that person. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Be the Linchpin. You've done everything right. You show up on time. You hit your deadlines. You follow the process. You're competent, reliable, maybe even good at what you do. But here's the truth that keeps you up at night. If you disappeared tomorrow, they'd replace you by Friday. Not because you're bad at your job, because you're just good enough. And in a world where good enough describes millions of people, good enough means replaceable. It means you're one budget cut, one restructuring, one leadership change away from being shown the door. It means your security is an illusion, built on the shaky ground of being adequate but not essential. This is the quiet crisis facing competent people everywhere. You're not failing, you're just not indispensable. And that difference is everything. The competence trap. Competence used to be enough. Do your job well, keep your head down, and you'd be fine. But the rules changed while you were busy being good at your tasks. Automation swallowed entire categories of good enough work. Global talent pools flooded every market with capable people willing to work for less. AI started handling what used to require years of training. Being technically skilled no longer protects you. Job descriptions, those neat little boxes that define roles, have turned you into an interchangeable part. When your value is defined by a list of tasks anyone with your credentials can perform, you're not a person, you're a function. And functions get optimized, outsourced, or eliminated. The market doesn't care that you work hard. It never did. Hard work without distinct value is just expensive effort. When companies look at their org charts during tough times, they're not asking who works the hardest. They're asking who would hurt to lose. And if the honest answer is we'd manage, you're in danger. This isn't about fairness. It's about reality. You can be good, even very good, and still be fundamentally replaceable. The question that should terrify you is this: if you left today, would anyone fight to keep you, or would they just post your job description online and move on? The emotional toll of invisibility. Being replaceable doesn't just threaten your paycheck. It erodes something deeper. You start noticing how you're overlooked in meetings, how your ideas get absorbed into the team's work without your name attached, how promotions and opportunities seem to flow around you, never quite landing in your lap. You've done everything they told you to do. You got the degree, you learned the skills, you put in the hours, and yet you're still optional. That realization that you're dispensable despite doing everything right creates a special kind of frustration. It's not the anger of being wronged, it's the quiet despair of being ignored. The worst part, you start to internalize it. Being treated as replaceable slowly becomes your identity. You lower your expectations. You stop raising your hand. You tell yourself that security comes from not making waves, from being grateful for what you have. But deep down you know, this isn't security. It's just postponing the inevitable. What happens when you become irreplaceable? Now imagine the opposite. Imagine being the person people think of first when something important needs to happen. The one they call in a crisis. The one whose departure would create genuine panic, not just a minor inconvenience. This isn't fantasy. It's the reality for linchpins, people who have made themselves so valuable, so trusted, and so distinct that replacing them feels like a loss, not a cost-saving measure. When you're a linchpin, small improvements in how you work compound over years into massive advantages. Each kept promise builds trust. Each problem you solve without drama increases your reputation. Each system you improve makes you more central to operations. This compounds. Your value doesn't just add up, it multiplies. You shift from survival mode to selectivity. Instead of desperately needing any work, you start choosing where you contribute. You negotiate from strength because you know your worth isn't theoretical, it's proven. You can say no to the wrong opportunities because you trust the right ones will come. And they do, because people who need serious work done seek out serious people. You become the first call, not the last resort. When something matters, your name comes up. Not because you're the only option, but because you're the obvious one. People stop wondering if you can handle it. They just know you will. The cost of staying replaceable. But if you don't change, if you keep doing what you're doing, hoping competence will somehow become enough, you stay trapped, locked into roles you've outgrown because you lack the leverage to move. You're kept around because you're okay enough, not bad enough to fire, not valuable enough to promote. You become dependent on luck, on timing, on office politics, anything except your own undeniable value. When change comes, and it always comes, you're vulnerable. Layoffs target the replaceable first. Restructuring eliminates the generic roles. New leadership brings in their own people, and you're left scrambling because you never built protection through value. Industries shift. Technologies evolve, markets collapse and rebuild, and those clinging to generic roles get swept away while linchpins adapt and thrive because their value isn't tied to a specific job description, it's tied to who they are and what they can do. Worst of all, you lose respect for yourself. Not all at once, slowly. Each time you're passed over, each time your contribution goes unnoticed, each time you realize you're still in the same place you were 5 years ago. The erosion is gradual but devastating. You wake up one day and realize you've become someone who accepts being overlooked, someone who's given up on mattering. What this book will do for you. This book is your manual for escaping that fate. Not through tricks or hacks, but through a systematic transformation of how you work, communicate, and show up. By the time you finish, you'll be able to define exactly where you're currently replaceable and what you're going to do about it. You'll craft an irreplaceable sentence that captures your unique value in a way that makes people lean in and listen. You'll identify the specific problems you're best suited to solve and the people who most need your particular combination of skills and character. More importantly, you'll implement visible changes immediately. You'll take one concrete ownership action that shifts how people see you. You'll upgrade one communication habit that reduces uncertainty for everyone around you. You'll improve one small system or process that creates immediate, tangible value. These aren't abstract concepts. They're practical moves that compound into undeniable irreplaceability. The path ahead. Becoming a linchpin requires 5 major shifts, and they must happen in order. First, you'll clarify your identity and value. You can't become irreplaceable if you don't know what makes you different. You'll define who you are when you're at your most useful, identify the specific problems you solve better than most, and connect your unique story to your future value. Second, you'll shift into ownership mode. No more hiding behind job descriptions or waiting for instructions. You'll learn to think like an owner, judge yourself by outcomes instead of effort, and constantly ask, what can I take responsibility for right now? Third, you'll build reliability and communication. You'll develop systems to keep every promise, adopt routines for proactive updates, and master the balance between being visible and being useful. Fourth, you'll elevate systems and stakeholder value. You'll start improving processes in your immediate control, make life easier for everyone who works with you, and understand that serving multiple groups well makes you nearly impossible to lose. Finally, you'll anchor everything in character. Integrity, humility, and courage aren't optional extras. They're the foundation that makes everything else sustainable. Skills attract attention, but character sustains trust. This order matters. Identity before action, because scattered effort without direction is just noise. Ownership before optimization, because no tactic works if you still think like a victim. Reliability and communication before systems and networking, because trust must be earned before you get access to bigger levers. And character throughout, because without it, every advantage you build is temporary and fragile. Winners and losers. There are two types of people in every workplace, every industry, every market. Winners think, I will become painful to lose and obvious to keep. They see every problem as a chance to demonstrate value, not avoid blame. They treat each project as a stage to prove reliability, ownership, and character. They don't wait for permission or validation. They create it through action. Losers think, what's the minimum I need to do to not get fired? They shift blame, make excuses, and stay forgettable. They wait for opportunities to be handed to them instead of creating them. They confuse activity with impact and wonder why no one notices their effort. The gap between these two groups isn't talent, it's attitude. It's the daily micro-choices. Show up, speak up, own up. It's deciding that becoming a linchpin isn't optional if you want long-term power and peace. You're standing at a fork. One path leads to more of the same. Competent, replaceable, anxious. The other leads to becoming the person others fight to keep. The choice is yours, but the time to choose is now. Because somewhere in your field, someone is already building what you're still thinking about. They're becoming irreplaceable while you're still hoping competence will be enough. And when the next wave of change hits, they'll be safe while you're scrambling. The strategies in the coming chapters, irreplaceable identity, ownership mode, reliability power, and beyond, hold the keys to a different future. But knowing about them won't save you. Only using them will. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Irreplaceable Identity. When someone asks what do you say? If you're like most people, you mumble something about your job title. Maybe add your industry and hope they don't ask follow-up questions. I'm a project manager. I work in marketing. I'm a consultant. These answers aren't wrong. They're just useless. They tell people what box you fit into, not why anyone should care that you exist. Here's the brutal truth. If you can't articulate your value in a way that makes people lean forward and say, "Tell me more," you don't have an identity. You have a label. And labels are for replaceable things. The linchpin doesn't introduce themselves with a title. They answer a different question entirely. What problem do I solve that makes people's lives measurably better? That's not semantics. That's the difference between being one of many and being the one. Why vague kills you. Think about the last time you needed help with something important. Did you search for someone who works hard or a team player? Of course not. You looked for the person who solves your specific problem. the one who's known for exactly what you need right now. But when you describe yourself in generic terms, I'm detail-oriented, I'm a fast learner, I'm passionate about my work, you become invisible. Not because these things aren't true, but because they could describe 10,000 other people. Decision makers can't recommend you if they can't remember what makes you different. They can't fight to keep you if they can't explain why losing you would hurt. Vague self-descriptions are a defense mechanism. If you never commit to being known for something specific, you never risk being judged for it. But that safety is an illusion. What you're actually doing is making yourself forgettable. And forgettable people get forgotten when it matters most. When you say, "I can do anything," what people hear is, "I stand for nothing." Flexibility sounds good until you realize it means you're the backup option, never the first call. You're the person they consider when their real choice isn't available. The shield you didn't know you needed. Clear identity isn't just about marketing yourself, it's about survival. When organizations face pressure, budget cuts, restructuring, leadership changes, they make quick decisions about who stays and who goes. In those moments, they don't have time to evaluate everyone's full potential. They rely on mental shortcuts. People protect what they can clearly name and explain. If your boss can say, "We can't lose Sarah, she's the one who turns chaotic data into decisions executives actually use," you're protected. If all they can say is, "Sarah's good at her job," you're vulnerable. This is how identity becomes a retention shield. When your value is specific and memorable, cutting you feels risky. People imagine the gap you'd leave behind. They worry about who would handle the thing you're known for. That worry is your protection. But it works the other way too. A defined identity becomes your navigation system. When you know exactly what you're building a reputation for, decisions get easier. You can look at an opportunity and ask, does this strengthen my identity or dilute it? You stop chasing every shiny project and start choosing the ones that compound your unique value. This clarity saves you from the exhaustion of trying to be everything to everyone. You're not refusing to help outside your lane. You're protecting the thing that makes you irreplaceable so you can help more powerfully within it. What you're actually building. Your identity isn't a single skill. It's a stack, a combination of abilities, traits, and perspectives that, when mixed together, create something rare and valuable. Think of it like this. Being great at data analysis is useful. Being great at communication is useful. But being someone who translates complex data into clear narratives that non-technical leaders can act on, that's a different level of value. The combination creates something most people can't replicate, even if they match you on individual components. This is your value stack. It's not about being the absolute best at any one thing. It's about assembling a mix that solves specific problems in a way that feels effortless to you, but magical to others. The power is in the intersection. When you combine skills from different domains, technical rigor plus creative thinking, operational excellence plus emotional intelligence, strategic vision plus hands-on execution, you occupy territory that's sparsely populated. You're not competing with everyone who has one of your skills. You're competing with the tiny fraction who have your particular combination. Your experiences matter here too. The career pivots you made, the industries you've worked in, the failures you survived, these aren't detours. They're ingredients in your unique lens. They let you see problems and solutions that people with more linear paths miss entirely. The dangerous myths that keep you generic. You've been lied to about how to build a career. The advice you got, be well-rounded, keep your options open, don't limit yourself, sounds wise but leads to mediocrity. The myth of the generalist says that if you're good at everything, you'll always have opportunities. But here's what actually happens. You become the person who's pretty good at many things, but the obvious choice for nothing. When something important needs doing, they don't think of you. They think of the specialist who owns that domain. Depth beats breadth when stakes are high. People don't want someone who can probably figure it out. They want someone who's already figured it out and can execute with confidence. Then there's the credential trap. You think your degree or job title is your identity. It's not. Those things might open doors, but they don't keep them open. What keeps doors open is the value you create once you're inside. Your title describes your position in a hierarchy. Your identity describes your impact on reality. One is structure, the other is substance. Some people fear that choosing a niche means limiting themselves. They think specificity is a cage, but the opposite is true. Niches are doorways, not prisons. When you're known for solving a specific problem exceptionally well, you get invited into rooms you'd never access as a generalist. Once you're in those rooms, you can expand, but you have to get in first. The most dangerous myth is that identity will just emerge naturally over time if you work hard and stay open. It won't. Passive identity formation leads to generic roles because you drift toward whatever's available rather than deliberately building toward something specific. Clarity is a choice. You either design your identity or accept whatever label others slap on you. How to build your irreplaceable sentence. Start with a simple structure. People come to me when they need X because I Y. Fill in those blanks with brutal honesty. Look at the real situations where people already seek your help, not the help you wish they'd ask for, the help they actually ask for. What problems do they bring you? What do they trust you to handle that they wouldn't trust to others? These patterns are clues to your existing value. Now, distill those patterns into one clear sentence, not a paragraph, not a list. One sentence that captures what you do and why it matters. This is your irreplaceable sentence, and it should make someone immediately understand your value without needing a follow-up explanation. Next, map your value stack. Identify 5 skills that create tangible outcomes in your work. Not skills you learned in school, skills you actually use to produce results people care about. Then choose 3 character traits that people consistently trust you for. Are you calm under pressure? Relentlessly thorough? Unusually honest? Finally, list 3 experiences that give you perspective others lack. Career transitions, unusual projects, even personal challenges that taught you how to navigate specific types of complexity. Combine these elements and look for themes. You're searching for 2 or 3 possible identity directions, combinations of your stack that solve real problems in distinctive ways. Then comes the critical part, choosing your problem and your people. Identify 1 or 2 core problems your stack can solve unusually well. Be specific. I help people communicate better is too vague. I help technical founders explain complex products to non-technical investors is specific. You can see the problem, the person, and the outcome. Decide which audience feels the pain of those problems most acutely. The more precisely you can describe who you serve, the easier it becomes to reach them, and the more valuable you become to them. Test your identity by sharing your irreplaceable sentence with people who know your work. Watch their reactions carefully. Confusion means you're still too vague. Polite nodding means you're generic. But when someone says, yes, that's exactly you, or I know 3 people who need that right now, you've found something real. Making it real. Use other people's words to sharpen your identity. When someone praises your work or recommends you, pay attention to their exact phrasing. They're telling you how your value translates in their mind. Collect these phrases. Notice patterns in the problems people say you solved for them. Their language is often clearer than yours because they're describing the outcome, not the process. Look for intersections, not extremes. You don't need to be the world's best at anything. You need to be unusually good at a combination that matters. Someone who's solid at finance and solid at storytelling can become the go-to person for making financial decisions understandable to non-financial teams. That intersection is more valuable than being slightly better at pure finance. Test your identity through action, not just contemplation. Offer to solve a specific problem for someone in your target group. Notice how it feels when you're working in your identity versus outside it. Notice how they respond. Real-world feedback will sharpen your identity faster than any amount of thinking. What success looks like. At minimum, You'll be able to explain your value in one sentence without rambling. People will understand what you do after a short conversation. You'll feel more confident introducing yourself because you're describing real value, not reciting a job title. Better, others will start describing you using your language. You'll receive requests that align with your chosen identity. Opportunities will feel less random and more like natural extensions of who you're becoming. Best, you'll become known in your circle as the person for a specific high-value problem. Your identity will attract opportunities you didn't chase. People will struggle to imagine tackling certain challenges without you involved. That's when you know your identity has become a genuine asset. When it goes wrong, your identity might be too vague, a statement that could describe thousands of others. Fix it by adding who you serve, what specific problem you solve, and how your approach differs. Replace soft words like help and support with concrete outcomes like close deals or ship products. Or it might be too narrow, a niche with no real demand. Fix this by talking to people in your target group about their actual problems. If nobody cares about what you're offering, expand to a broader but still specific problem. Some people never commit because they keep rewriting their identity, chasing perfection. Treat your identity as a 6 to 12 month experiment, not a lifetime sentence. Measure it by results generated, not by how perfectly worded it sounds. Others build an identity around what they wish they were good at rather than what they've proven. Anchor your identity in evidence, past wins, external validation, real outcomes. Use aspiration as a direction to grow toward, not as your current positioning. The next move. You now understand that identity isn't about finding yourself, it's about building yourself deliberately. You know that the combination of your skills, traits, and experiences creates value that can't be easily replicated. You've learned how to articulate that value in a way that makes people remember you. But knowing who you are is only the beginning. The real question is, what do you do with that identity once you have it? How do you show up differently when you're clear on your value? How do you shift from passenger to driver in your own career? That transformation requires a fundamental change in how you relate to your work, a shift so powerful that it separates those who stay replaceable from those who become essential. It's waiting for you in the next chapter, and it starts with a single question most people never ask themselves. Chapter 3, Ownership Mode. There's a question that separates linchpins from everyone else. It's not about skills or credentials or how hard you work. It's simpler and more brutal than that. When something goes wrong, what's your first thought? Most people immediately scan for someone to blame. The client changed their mind. The team didn't communicate. The timeline was unrealistic. Leadership didn't provide enough resources. The market shifted. These explanations might all be true, but notice what they have in common. They all point away from you. Linchpins ask a different question. What can I do next? Not, what should someone else do? Not, why did this happen to me? Just, what's my move? That shift from explaining to acting is what this chapter is about. It's the difference between being a passenger in your career and being the driver, and it's the single most powerful transformation you can make. The invisible line. Walk into any workplace and you'll see two types of people. They might have the same job title, the same responsibilities on paper, even the same skills, but leaders can spot the difference in seconds. One type waits to be told what to do. They complete tasks. They follow instructions. They're careful not to step outside their lane because that's how you avoid getting blamed. When something breaks, they point to the process, the other department, the lack of clarity from above. They're not wrong. Those things often are problems, but they're also not helping. The other type scans for what needs to happen and makes it happen. They don't wait for permission or perfect conditions. They see a gap and fill it. They spot a risk and flag it. They notice a pattern and fix it. When something breaks, their first move is to contain the damage and propose a solution, not to establish who's at fault. Leaders scan constantly for the second type. They're looking for people who take responsibility, not just orders, because owners become indispensable. Passengers become replaceable parts. This isn't about working harder or longer hours. It's about how you think. Passengers measure their day by tasks completed. Owners measure their day by outcomes created. Passengers ask, did I do what I was told? Owners ask, did I move the needle on what actually matters? That distinction determines who gets promoted, who gets protected during cuts, and who gets trusted with the work that actually builds careers. Why effort isn't enough. You've been taught to value effort, show up early, stay late, work hard, put in the hours, and yes, effort matters, but only if it's pointed at the right target. Effort without outcomes is just expensive activity. You can spend 12 hours on a project and produce nothing useful. You can follow every step in the process and still fail to solve the actual problem. You can work yourself to exhaustion and remain completely replaceable because you never asked, what result am I actually trying to create? This is the trap of task orientation. You focus on completing your to-do list instead of asking whether those tasks matter. You measure success by how busy you are instead of by what changed because you were there. You confuse motion with progress. Outcome orientation flips this. You start each day by identifying the real result people care about, not the activity, the result. Then you work backward to figure out what actions will actually create that result. Everything else is noise. When you shift to outcomes, you stop hiding behind job descriptions. You stop saying, I did my part when the project fails. You start asking harder questions. Did we actually solve the problem? Did the client get what they needed? Did we move closer to the goal? And if the answer is no, you don't shrug and blame the system. You ask what you could have done differently. This is uncomfortable. It means you can't deflect responsibility, but it's also liberating because when you focus on outcomes, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You become someone who shapes them. The radical part. Radical responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. That's just another form of helplessness. It means accepting that in every situation, you have some degree of influence and choosing to use it. Something went wrong. Instead of cataloging all the external factors that contributed, ask, what was my part in this? What could I have controlled? What can I control now? This isn't about guilt, it's about power. Because the moment you identify what you can influence, you stop being stuck. Most people outsource accountability. They wait for their boss to set clear priorities. They expect clients to know exactly what they want. They blame the system when things don't work. And then they wonder why they feel powerless. Here's the truth. Every time you say, they should have, you're giving away your power. Every time you wait for someone else to fix a problem, you can see you're choosing to be a passenger. Every time you complain without proposing a solution, you're signaling that you're not someone who makes things happen. Radical responsibility means stopping all of that. It means asking, what's my next best move in every situation, especially when circumstances aren't ideal. It means treating every problem as an opportunity to demonstrate that you're the kind of person who steps up, not the kind who steps back. When you break things, you will make mistakes. Everyone does. The question is, what do you do when you screw up? Most people's instinct is to minimize, deflect, or hide. They sugarcoat what happened. They emphasize the external factors. They hope no one notices the full extent of the damage. This is a catastrophic error. Everyone already sees the problem. Denial doesn't protect you. It destroys your credibility. What separates linchpins from everyone else is how they handle errors. When you own a mistake, you do three things. First, you state clearly what happened without drama or excuses. No sugarcoating, no blame shifting, just the facts. Second, you own your part without wallowing in self-pity or over-apologizing. You acknowledge what you controlled and what you'll do differently. Third, you present a concrete plan to fix the issue and prevent it from happening again. This is how you turn mistakes into proof of growth. Every error is raw material. It shows you where your systems are weak, where your judgment needs refinement, where your assumptions were wrong. When you treat mistakes as data instead of disasters, you extract value from them. And when you own them publicly, you demonstrate maturity and courage, qualities that actually increase trust over time. Leaders and clients remember honest fixers far longer than they remember people who pretend to be flawless, because everyone knows flawless is a lie. What they want is someone who faces reality, takes responsibility, and makes things right. The myths that keep you small. You've been sold some dangerous lies about how to stay safe at work. The first is that compliance equals security. Do what you're told, don't make waves, and you'll be fine. But blind compliance creates followers, not linchpins. Leaders don't want robots. They want partners in responsibility. People who can think, adapt, and take initiative when circumstances change. Playing small to avoid blame doesn't protect you. It makes you replaceable. The second myth is, it's not my job. You see a problem outside your official responsibilities and you walk past it because addressing it isn't in your job description. But here's what you're actually doing. You're signaling that you care more about boundaries than outcomes. You're showing that you're not someone who can be trusted with bigger responsibilities because you won't even handle the small adjacent ones. Smart ownership doesn't mean doing everything. It means leading something. It means seeing where you can add value and stepping in even when no one asked you to. That's how you become indispensable. The third myth is that admitting fault makes you look weak. But think about the last time someone owned a mistake cleanly and proposed a fix. Did you think less of them, or did you respect their honesty and capability? Owning mistakes demonstrates exactly what organizations need: people who can face hard truths and solve problems instead of hiding from them. How to make the shift. Start with 3 simple questions that rewire how you approach work. Before you start your day, ask, what result am I really trying to create today? Not what tasks are on your list, what actual outcome matters. This forces you to separate activity from impact. In the moment, when you're facing a problem or decision, ask, what can I influence right now? Not what you wish you could control, not what someone else should do. What's actually within your power to affect in this moment. This keeps you focused on action instead of complaint. At the end of each day, ask, what did I control and how can I upgrade it tomorrow? Review your decisions, your responses, your choices. Identify one thing you could have handled better. This turns every day into a learning loop. These questions become a habit, and that habit changes how you show up. You stop waiting to be told. You stop hiding behind, I was just following orders. You start volunteering for clear deliverables with deadlines. You start using language like, I will, instead of someone should. You summarize your responsibilities at the end of meetings so everyone hears you claiming ownership. When you make a mistake, you state what happened, own your part, and present your fix, all in one clear communication. No drama, no excuses, just responsibility and action. Map out your current responsibilities and the outcomes tied to each. Then identify 2 or 3 neglected areas where you could quietly take more ownership. Choose one ownership move to make in the next 48 hours. Something small but visible. Something that demonstrates you're not waiting for permission to add value. Small moves, big signals. Replace complaints with proposals. Catch yourself about to say they should and turn it into here's what I propose. Show up to meetings with at least one improvement idea, not just a list of problems. Practice sharing your proposals in simple, concrete language. Start with micro-ownership. Own small things you can fully control. Gradually increase the size and complexity of what you take on. Each small win reinforces the new identity you're building. You're becoming someone who makes things happen, not someone who waits for things to happen to them. Signal ownership without arrogance. Say, I'll own this rather than I'll do everything. Give credit to others while still claiming responsibility for your part. Share progress updates that show you're actively carrying what you claimed. What changes? At first, you'll notice yourself complaining less and acting more. People will start trusting you with straightforward tasks because you consistently deliver. You'll feel more in control of your day instead of constantly reactive. As you build momentum, your manager, clients, or partners will praise your initiative. You'll be invited into discussions earlier because people see you as a problem solver, not just a task completer. You'll start getting promoted, referred, or looped into higher stakes work. Eventually, you'll be trusted to lead projects or teams even when others have more seniority on paper. Your reputation will become, if they own it, it will get done, and done well. You'll build a track record that follows you across roles, companies, or ventures, because ownership is portable. It's who you are, not where you work. The traps to avoid. You can overown. You try to take responsibility for everything and spread yourself too thin. The fix. Own outcomes, but share or delegate tasks strategically. Clarify scope before accepting new responsibilities. Ownership doesn't mean martyrdom. Sometimes others will take credit for your work. Your contributions get hijacked or go unrecognized. The fix. Communicate your role clearly through status updates and summaries. Document your work so there's a visible trail of what you've led. Make your ownership visible without being obnoxious about it. You might get discouraged when results lag despite your ownership. External factors slow progress, and you start to doubt whether ownership matters. The fix. Separate controllable inputs from uncontrollable outcomes. Focus on improving your decisions and actions, not obsessing over timing. You can't control when results arrive, but you can control the quality of your choices. The foundation for everything else. Ownership mode is the engine that powers everything else in this book. Without it, every other strategy is just theory. With it, you become someone who can be trusted with real responsibility. But ownership alone isn't enough. You can take responsibility for outcomes and still fail if people can't count on you to follow through. You can step up and still be overlooked if your track record is inconsistent. The next piece of the puzzle is about building something that compounds over time, something that turns occasional ownership into permanent trust. It's the quality that makes people relax when you're involved, the trait that earns you autonomy and influence, the foundation that everything else is built on, and it starts with a simple promise kept. Chapter 4, Reliability Power. Picture two people with identical skills, same education, same experience, same raw talent. One gets promoted, one gets passed over. One becomes indispensable, one stays replaceable. What's the difference? It's not intelligence, it's not charisma, it's not who they know or how hard they work. It's something simpler and more powerful. One of them can be counted on, the other can't. Reliability sounds boring. It sounds like the participation trophy of professional qualities, something everyone claims but nobody values. But that's exactly why it's your secret weapon. While everyone else chases brilliance, you can build something far more valuable, the reputation that when you say something will happen, it happens. This isn't about being good at your job, it's about being the person people feel safe betting on. And in a world full of talented flakes, that makes you irreplaceable. The quiet advantage. Here's what most people miss. In high-stakes situations, decision makers don't choose the most talented person. They choose the most reliable one. Think about the last time you needed something important done. Did you pick the genius who might deliver something brilliant or might disappear for 3 days? Or did you pick the person who always comes through, even if their work is merely excellent instead of extraordinary? You picked reliability. Everyone does. This is the dependability premium. Reliable performers get opportunities that more talented but inconsistent people never see. They get raises, not because they're the best, but because keeping them feels safe. They get referrals because people know they won't make their recommender look bad. They get autonomy because they've proven they don't need constant supervision. When work flows through a reliable person, everyone around them feels calmer. There's no anxiety about whether it will get done, no need to follow up constantly, no bracing for last-minute chaos. That psychological relief is worth more than you think. People will pay a premium in money, opportunities, and loyalty to avoid stress. But here's the deeper truth. Reliability isn't just about making others comfortable. It's the foundation under everything else you're building. Your identity means nothing if people can't trust you to deliver. Your ownership is worthless if you don't follow through. Your skills are invisible if your track record is inconsistent. Reliability is the base layer. Without it, everything else collapses. What reliability actually means. Reliability isn't about being perfect. It's about doing what you said, when you said, how you said you would do it. That's it. No heroics required, no genius needed, just alignment between promise and performance. Most people fail at this because they confuse promises made with promises kept. They say yes to everything, then wonder why they're drowning. They commit without clarifying what success looks like, then deliver something that misses the mark. They rely on memory and good intentions instead of systems, then forget critical commitments. Real reliability starts before you commit. It starts with asking, what exactly does success look like here? You confirm the deadline. You clarify the format. You understand what done means to the other person, not just to you. Then you summarize back what you heard to make sure you're aligned. This seems tedious. It is tedious. But it's also the difference between delivering what people actually need and delivering what you think they need. And that gap is where trust dies. Once you commit, you structure your work so that keeping promises is the default, not the heroic exception. You don't depend on memory. You externalize every commitment to a single trusted system. You don't rely on motivation. You design your days around priorities, not distractions. You don't hope for the best. You break big promises into small, trackable steps so you can see problems coming. This is how you build reliability capital. Each kept promise is a deposit in your trust account. Each delivery on time and as specified increases the balance. Over time, that capital compounds. Small, reliable acts lead to bigger opportunities, which lead to more trust, which leads to even bigger opportunities. It's a flywheel, and reliability is what spins it. The lies you tell yourself. You think being busy proves you're committed. It doesn't. Busyness is often a mask for poor planning or avoidance. You fill your day with low-stakes tasks to avoid the hard, high-stakes work you committed to. Then you point to your exhaustion as evidence of effort. But people don't remember your exhaustion. They remember whether you delivered. Results matter. Exhaustion doesn't. You can work yourself into the ground and still be unreliable if you're working on the wrong things. Then there's the memory trap. You tell yourself you'll remember that commitment. You don't need to write it down. But cognitive overload makes memory unreliable, especially when you're juggling multiple projects and stakeholders. And when you forget, the other person doesn't hear, "I was overwhelmed." They hear, "You don't matter enough for me to remember." Serious people externalize their commitments. They use apps, notebooks, digital tools, whatever works. They immediately record every promise, no matter how small. They review that list daily. Because they know that reliability isn't about having a good memory, it's about having a good system. The most dangerous lie is that having a good reason for missing a deadline makes it okay. It doesn't. Repeated good reasons erode trust just like excuses. Because people only see the outcome, not your internal struggles. They don't care that you were sick, or that another project blew up, or that the client changed their mind. They care that you didn't deliver what you promised when you promised it. Real reliability includes forecasting problems early, not explaining them late. When you see a delay coming, you warn people immediately. You offer a revised timeline and a next best alternative. You own the impact instead of hiding behind circumstances. That's how you maintain trust, even when things go wrong. Building the system. Start by capturing every commitment in one place. Choose a single system, an app, a notebook, a digital tool, and stick with it. The moment you make a promise, record it. What you committed to, who you committed to, when it's due, what done looks like. Review this list every morning. Ask yourself, what did I promise and to whom? Then prioritize tasks tied to commitments before you touch anything else. This simple habit prevents the catastrophic error of forgetting obligations because you got distracted by urgent but unimportant work. At the end of each day, note what you delivered and what needs renegotiation. If you're going to miss a deadline, you need to know now, not the day before it's due. This daily check-in keeps you ahead of problems instead of constantly reacting to them. When you do need to renegotiate a commitment, do it right. Warn the key people early. Don't wait until the last minute, hoping you'll somehow pull it off. Give them time to adjust. Offer a revised timeline and explain what you can deliver by the original deadline, if that helps. Own the impact of the delay without drowning in excuses. People can handle delays if you give them visibility and options. What they can't handle is being blindsided. Use simple confirmation messages after every important conversation. Send a quick note. To confirm, I'll deliver X by Y in Z format. This reduces misunderstandings and creates a written record of what you committed to. It also signals that you take commitments seriously. Break big projects into smaller checkpoints with specific dates. This keeps you ahead of last-minute scrambles and gives you natural moments to share progress updates. When stakeholders can see steady movement, they stay calm. When they see nothing until the deadline, they panic. Default to underpromising and over-delivering. Give yourself realistic buffers when estimating time and complexity. Then surprise people with early delivery or higher quality than expected. But use this strategically, not constantly. If you always over-deliver, that becomes the new expectation, and you burn out trying to maintain it. What changes when you get this right? At first, the changes are internal. You stop dropping balls. You stop forgetting commitments. Your days feel more organized and less chaotic because you're working from a clear list of priorities instead of reacting to whatever screams loudest. Then people start noticing. They stop chasing you for updates because they trust you'll deliver. They stop micromanaging because you've proven you don't need it. They start describing you as a stabilizing force, the person who makes projects feel manageable instead of terrifying. Colleagues begin explicitly mentioning your reliability when they recommend you. You should work with them. They always come through. Leaders start routing important work to you because they know it will get done. Not because you're the most talented person available, but because you're the safest bet. Eventually, your name becomes shorthand for safe hands. People relax when they hear you're involved. You become the trusted backbone of key initiatives. And when crises or restructuring hit, people explicitly fight to keep you because you're the person they count on when it matters most. This is reliability capital at work. You've built such a strong track record that even occasional failures don't destroy trust. They just create small dips that you can recover from quickly. Your reputation becomes anti-fragile. It can absorb shocks and come back stronger because the overall pattern is so solid. The traps that kill reliability. The biggest trap is overcommitting. You say yes to everything because you want to be helpful or because you're afraid of disappointing people. Then you spread yourself too thin and start missing deadlines. The fix is simple, but hard. Pause before agreeing to anything. Check your system. Look at your current workload. Then say, I can do X by Y. Is that acceptable? Give people a realistic timeline instead of an optimistic one. Sometimes you're reliable, but invisible. You deliver consistently, but no one seems to notice or care. This happens when you don't pair delivery with communication. Fix it by sending brief status updates that highlight outcomes, not just activity. Periodically summarize your contributions in reviews or check-ins. Make your reliability visible without being obnoxious about it. The most painful trap is a major failure that damages trust. You miss something big and people lose confidence. When this happens, you can't just apologize and move on. You need to publicly own the mistake, outline what caused it, and present a concrete prevention plan. Then you need to overinvest in reliability for a period, delivering early, communicating more, following through flawlessly to rebuild the capital you lost. Trust takes years to build and moments to destroy. Rebuilding it takes even longer. The compound effect. Here's what makes reliability so powerful. It compounds over time in ways that talent alone never does. Every kept promise makes the next promise more believable. Every on-time delivery makes people more willing to bet on you for bigger projects. Every clean handoff makes you more central to operations. This creates a flywheel where reliability generates opportunities, which generate more chances to be reliable, which generate even better opportunities. Meanwhile, unreliable people stay stuck. They might be brilliant, but their inconsistency means they never build the trust needed for serious responsibility. They're always starting from zero, always having to prove themselves again, always one mistake away from being written off. You're building something different. You're building a reputation that travels with you across roles, companies, and industries. Because reliability is portable, it's not tied to a specific job or context, it's who you are. But reliability alone still isn't enough. You can be the most dependable person in the room and still be overlooked if people don't know what you're doing or why it matters. The next piece of the puzzle is about making your work visible in a way that builds trust instead of triggering annoyance. And it starts with a principle most people violate every single day. Chapter 5, Clear Communication. You're working hard, making progress, solving problems, delivering results, but nobody knows. They don't see the late nights you put in. They don't know about the obstacles you cleared. They have no idea how close you are to finishing. So what do they assume? That nothing's happening, that you're stuck, that maybe they should check in, again, or worse, that they should just do it themselves. This is the invisible work trap, and it kills careers. Because here's the brutal truth. If people don't see your progress, they assume there is none. Your excellent work, delivered in silence, feels exactly like mediocre work delivered in silence. Both look like nothing until the very end, and by then, the damage is done. Silence doesn't protect you. It exposes you. It triggers anxiety in everyone who depends on you. It invites micromanagement. It makes people wonder if they can trust you. And it ensures that even when you deliver something great, nobody remembers the journey, just that they were worried the whole time. Clear communication isn't about talking more. It's about making people feel safe. And that safety is what transforms you from good worker to indispensable. The invisible tax of uncertainty. Think about the last time someone went dark on you. They took on a task, said they'd handle it, then disappeared. Days passed, no updates, no progress reports, nothing. What happened in your mind? You started filling the silence with assumptions, probably bad ones. You wondered if they forgot, if they're struggling, if they even started. You felt a low-grade anxiety that pulled your attention away from your own work. You checked in, probably more than once, because you needed to know. That anxiety is expensive. It's cognitive load, mental energy spent worrying instead of working. And when you go silent on people, you're creating that same tax for everyone who depends on you. They're not just waiting for your work, they're managing their uncertainty about whether it will happen. That uncertainty makes you exhausting to work with, even if you eventually deliver, because the whole time you were working, they were worrying. Clear communication eliminates that tax. When people know where things stand, what's blocking you, and what's coming next, they can relax. They can plan. They can focus on their own work instead of managing their anxiety about yours. And they remember that working with you feels easy, not stressful. This is why communication is a trust multiplier. It makes you seem more competent and prepared, even when you're facing the same challenges as everyone else. Because competence isn't just about what you do, it's about how you make others feel while you're doing it. What proactive transparency actually means. Most people communicate reactively. They wait until someone asks for an update. They respond to pressure. They share information only when they have to. Linchpins communicate proactively. They share progress, risks, and decisions before anyone has to chase them. They make visibility part of the job, not an optional bonus. They understand that showing your work in progress at key points isn't bragging, it's basic professionalism. This is proactive transparency. You're not waiting for people to wonder what's happening. You're telling them before they have to ask. You're surfacing problems early when there's still time to solve them, instead of revealing them late when everyone's options are limited. The core principle is simple. No important stakeholder should ever be blindsided by an outcome involving you. Not by a delay, not by a change in direction, not by a problem that emerged 3 days ago, but you're only mentioning now. If it affects them, they should hear it from you first, early, and with enough context to make good decisions. This doesn't mean sharing every tiny detail. It means understanding what people need to know to feel safe and informed, then giving them that information on a predictable schedule. When you do this consistently, something powerful happens. People stop worrying about you. They trust that if something's wrong, you'll tell them. And that trust gives you freedom. The myths that keep you silent. You think if you communicate more, you'll annoy people. You imagine them rolling their eyes at another update from you, so you stay quiet, hoping your work will speak for itself. But there's a massive difference between spam and relevant updates. Spam is noise, information people don't need, delivered too frequently with no clear purpose. Relevant updates are signal, information that helps people make decisions, delivered at a rhythm that matches the stakes of the work. Stakeholders prefer concise clarity over silence, always, because silence forces them to guess, and guessing is exhausting. If you're not sure how often to update someone, ask them, what's the best way and cadence to keep you informed? Most people will tell you exactly what they need, then you just do that. The second myth is that if you're behind, you should hide until you catch up. This is catastrophic. Hiding multiplies damage. It gives people no time to adjust, no opportunity to help, no chance to manage expectations with their own stakeholders. When you finally surface with bad news, it's not just the delay that hurts, it's the betrayal of trust. Early transparency gives people options. They can reprioritize, they can shift resources, they can adjust timelines with their own clients or bosses, but only if you tell them early. Leaders judge you far more on how you handle problems than on whether problems exist. Everyone faces obstacles. Linchpins surface them early with proposed solutions. Everyone else hides and hopes. The third myth is that your work speaks for itself. It doesn't. Unseen work might as well not exist in others' minds. Busy leaders don't have time to infer your impact or piece together what you've been doing. They rely on what you tell them. Communication is how your work gets interpreted, remembered, and valued. The framework that changes everything. Use a simple 3-part structure for every meaningful update. First, state where things stand right now. Current status, clear and specific. The prototype is 70% complete. Core features are working, still building the user interface. Second, outline challenges. What's blocking you? What risks are you tracking? What decisions need to be made? Keep it brief but honest. Waiting on API access from the vendor. Should have it by Thursday. If not, we'll need to push the demo back 3 days. Third, specify your next commitments. What will you do next and by when? This shows you're in control and moving forward. I'll finish the interface by Monday and run internal testing Tuesday. You'll have a demo-ready version by Wednesday morning. This 3-part rhythm, current status, challenges, next commitments, gives people everything they need. They know where you are. They know what might go wrong. They know what's coming next. That's clarity. That's safety. Set communication rhythms for each key project. Decide on a default update frequency that matches the stakes and pace of the work. Daily for high-urgency projects. Weekly for steady-state work. Milestone-based for longer initiatives. Then stick to that rhythm religiously. Predictability is part of the value. When people know they'll hear from you every Friday at 3 p.m., they stop wondering and start trusting. Ask each stakeholder what works for them. Some want detailed emails. Some prefer quick messages. Some just need a heads up when something changes. Use the right channel for the right information. Instant messages for quick updates. Emails or shared documents for detail and decisions. Calls for complex discussions that need real-time dialogue. Before important meetings, send a short agenda. What decisions need to be made? What questions need answering? This focuses the conversation and shows you're prepared. After meetings, send a brief summary. 3 to 5 bullet points covering decisions made and next steps. Then clearly state what you're owning from that meeting. This reinforces your role and creates a shared record everyone can reference. Making your messages work. Write like you're being generous, not showing off. Use short, sharp sentences that are easy to skim. Busy people don't read, they scan. So use bullets and headers to make information easy to find. Put the most important information in the first line or two. If someone only reads the first sentence, they should still get the core message. Ask for feedback on your communication style. Find a trusted colleague and ask, are my updates clear and useful? What should I change? Notice which types of messages get quick, positive responses and which get ignored or misunderstood. Iterate based on actual reactions, not on what you assume people want. Normalize quick check-ins. Use brief alignment calls or messages to prevent long, expensive detours. Can we do 10 minutes to align on X so we don't waste hours later? Then follow up with 2 or 3 bullet points summarizing what you decided. This keeps everyone on the same page without requiring long meetings or endless email threads. What success looks like. At first, people stop asking any update because they already know where things stand. You feel more in control because expectations are clear and documented. There are fewer misunderstandings and less duplicated effort around your work. As you build momentum, stakeholders start explicitly praising your clarity and responsiveness. You become the natural coordinator who keeps everyone aligned. Leaders trust you with high-visibility projects because they know you'll keep them informed. They're not worried about being blindsided, so they're willing to give you more autonomy and bigger responsibilities. Eventually, your communication style becomes a template others are asked to follow. You're seen as the person who makes complex projects feel simple and manageable. In tense situations, people feel calmer when you're involved because they know you'll keep everyone on the same page. That reputation, they always keep us in the loop, becomes one of your most valuable assets. When communication goes wrong, you can over-communicate noise. Your messages become frequent but low value and people start ignoring you. The fix: filter every message through one question. What does this person need to know to act or feel safe? If the answer is nothing, don't send it. Cut filler. Focus on decisions, risks, and next steps. Respect people's time by only giving them information that matters. The opposite problem is hiding bad news too long. You wait until the last minute to reveal delays or problems, hoping you'll somehow fix them first. Adopt this rule. Bad news travels immediately with a proposed plan attached. Treat early warning as an act of respect, not a confession of failure. People can handle problems. They can't handle surprises. Sometimes different stakeholders have misaligned expectations about what you're doing or what the project should deliver. This creates chaos when they compare notes. Fix it with joint alignment messages that recap agreements. Here's what we all agreed on in yesterday's call. When conflicts appear, bring people together and re-clarify priorities and scope. Don't let misalignment fester. The compound effect of clarity. Clear communication doesn't just make individual projects smoother. It builds a reputation that follows you everywhere. People remember how they felt working with you. If they felt informed, respected, and safe, they'll seek you out again. They'll recommend you. They'll fight to keep you on their team. This compounds over time. Each project where you communicate well makes the next project easier because people already trust you. Each stakeholder you keep informed becomes someone who vouches for you behind closed doors. Each crisis you navigate with transparency becomes proof that you can be trusted when things get hard. But communication alone still isn't enough to make you irreplaceable. You can be reliable, you can communicate beautifully, and still be limited by the scope of what you personally touch. The next level requires a different kind of thinking, one that multiplies your impact far beyond your own hands and hours. It's about leaving things better than you found them in a way that outlasts your direct involvement. And it starts with seeing friction that everyone else has learned to ignore. Chapter 6, System Builder. You've noticed it. That same question asked 3 times this week. That same mistake made by different people, that same bottleneck slowing down every project, that same confusion about who does what and when. Everyone sees it, everyone complains about it, but nobody fixes it. Most people treat recurring problems like weather, unfortunate but unchangeable. They sigh, work around them, and move on. They accept that this is just how things work here. They waste the same 15 minutes every day on the same preventable issue and never think to solve it once. But linchpins see something different. They see design opportunities. They see leverage points where a small change could eliminate friction for everyone. They see the chance to build something that outlasts their direct involvement and multiplies their impact far beyond their own hours. This is what separates workers from architects. Workers complete tasks. Architects improve how tasks get completed. And in a world where everyone's busy, the person who makes everyone else's work smoother becomes indispensable. The invisible infrastructure. Think about the last time something just worked. You followed a clear process. The handoff was smooth. The information you needed was right where you expected it. You didn't have to ask questions or guess or redo anything. How did that feel? Probably like relief, like ease, like someone actually thought about your experience and designed for it. Now think about who created that smooth experience. Can you name them? Probably not, because good systems are invisible. They fade into the background. People use them without thinking about them. But the absence of friction, that's what people remember. And when they try to imagine doing that work without those systems, they realize how much they depend on whoever built them. This is the power of being quiet infrastructure. You're not the loudest voice in the room. You're not taking credit in every meeting, but you're the reason things work. You're the architect behind the processes that keep everything flowing. And when organizations face change, restructuring, leadership transitions, budget cuts, they protect the infrastructure, because losing it would hurt everyone. Systems outlast people. Processes and tools continue functioning even when staff changes. But the person who built those systems, they become the key architect, not a disposable executor, because everyone knows that replacing them means losing not just their labor, but their understanding of how everything fits together. Why friction matters more than you think. Big problems get attention. A major failure, a client loss, a public mistake, these create urgency in action. But small, repeated frustrations, those get tolerated, ignored, accepted as the cost of doing business. This is a massive mistake, because repeated small frustrations drain more cumulative energy than big, rare problems. That daily 15-minute delay adds up to 60 hours a year. That recurring confusion creates stress, errors, and rework that compound over time. That duplicated effort wastes resources that could be spent on actual value creation. The people who remove this friction are loved by everyone who uses the system, not in a loud, obvious way, but in a deep, lasting way, because you made their work life tangibly better. You freed up their time and mental energy for higher value creative and strategic work. You turned something annoying into something smooth. And here's what most people miss. Removing friction is often easier than you think. You don't need permission. You don't need a big budget. You don't need a formal role. You just need to see the pattern, design a simple fix, and share it. What system building actually means. System building starts with friction mapping. You spend 1 week paying attention to where work consistently gets slowed, confused, or duplicated. Not one-off issues, recurring patterns. The same question asked repeatedly. The same approval process that always takes too long. The same handoff that always creates misunderstanding. You write these down, not to complain, but to analyze. You group them into themes, communication breakdowns, tool limitations, unclear ownership, missing documentation. Then you choose one high-impact friction point to target first. Not the biggest problem, not the most complex, the one where a simple fix would create immediate, visible relief. This is process elevation. You commit to leaving every workflow better than you found it. Not perfect, just better. You focus first on your own area before trying to fix everything. You prioritize simple, effective improvements over grand, complex redesigns because complexity kills adoption. Simple works. The goal is transferable clarity. You document how things are done so others can repeat them without you. You create simple checklists, templates, and guides that reduce questions. You make it possible for someone to do the work correctly on their first try without needing to ask you for help. This might sound like you're making yourself replaceable. It's the opposite. The person who documents is seen as the architect, not the expendable cog. Building systems increases your perceived strategic value because you're thinking beyond your own tasks. You're thinking about how the whole operation runs. That's leadership thinking, even if you don't have a leadership title. The myths that keep you stuck. You think systems are for managers, not for you. That improving processes is someone else's job, that you should just focus on your assigned tasks and let leadership handle the big picture. But anyone affecting workflow can improve systems. System thinking is a mindset, not a job title. And here's the secret. Building systems is often what gets you promoted into leadership, because you've already demonstrated that you can see beyond your own work and improve how everyone operates. The second myth is that you don't have time to build systems. You're too busy doing the actual work. But not fixing recurring issues wastes far more time long term. A simple checklist or template can save hours every week. The time you invest up front pays back exponentially as the system gets used repeatedly. Think of it this way. You can spend 15 minutes every day answering the same question, or you can spend 1 hour creating a document that answers it forever. Which is the better use of your time? The third myth is the fear that documenting things makes you replaceable. But the opposite is true. Being the one who makes handoffs possible makes you central, not optional. Because you're not just doing the work, you're designing how the work gets done. You're building capability, not hoarding knowledge. And organizations value builders far more than hoarders. How to build your first system. Start simple. Keep a friction log for 1 week. Every time you notice recurring confusion, delays, or repeated questions, write it down. At the end of the week, review your notes. Look for patterns. Group similar issues together. Then choose one friction point that affects you or your immediate team most frequently. Design a simple first system to address it. Decide what format will help most. A checklist for a multi-step process. A template for a recurring document. A script for a common conversation. A workflow diagram showing who does what and when. Keep it minimal. The goal is usable, not comprehensive. Outline the key steps from start to finish. Add simple decision prompts for common variations. If X happens, do Y. If not, do Z. Make it clear enough that someone unfamiliar with the process could follow it without asking questions. Then test it. Use the system yourself for a week. Note where you still stumble or feel uncertain. Ask a colleague to follow it and observe where they get confused. This feedback is gold. It shows you where your instructions are unclear or where you've made assumptions that aren't obvious to others. Refine based on what you learn. Adjust the order of steps. Clarify confusing language. Add missing details. Remove unnecessary complexity. Keep iterating until the process feels smooth. Finally, create transferable documentation. Write a brief, quick start section explaining what the system is for and when to use it. Add clear visuals or bullet steps to keep it easy to follow. Store it in a shared location where others can access it. Make it easy to find and easy to update as the process evolves. Making systems that actually get used. Start where you have control. Focus on systems that affect your daily work or direct team first. Don't try to fix company-wide issues before you've proven small wins. Use those small successes to build credibility. When people see that your systems actually work and make life easier, they'll be more open to adopting bigger changes later. Aim for simple and usable, not perfect. Complexity kills adoption. If someone can't follow your system on a busy, stressful day, it's too complex. Simplify. Strip out everything that isn't essential. You can always add sophistication later if needed, but start with the minimum viable system that solves the core problem. Adopt the 2-time rule. If you have to explain something more than twice, build a system for it. Turn repeated answers into templates or FAQs. This rule helps you prioritize which systems to build next. The questions you answer most often are the friction points affecting the most people. When you introduce a system, frame it as support, not criticism. Say, "I made this to make things easier for us," not "you've been doing this wrong." Highlight how input from others shaped the system. Give credit. Make people feel like collaborators, not subjects of your improvement project. This reduces resistance and increases adoption. Involve end users early. Ask what would actually help you before you design anything. This ensures you're solving real problems, not imagined ones. And when people have input into the design, they're far more likely to use the result. What changes when you build systems? At first, your own work becomes smoother and less stressful. You spend less time fixing the same problems repeatedly. You stop answering the same questions over and over. Your days feel more predictable and controlled because you've eliminated sources of recurring chaos. Then people start noticing. Projects involving you tend to run more cleanly. There are fewer surprises, fewer delays, fewer misunderstandings. Your systems get adopted by your immediate team or clients. You're asked to help improve other workflows because you've built a track record of making things better. People start saying, "Things run better when you're involved." Not because you're working harder or longer, but because you've designed the work to flow more smoothly. You've removed friction that everyone else had learned to tolerate. Eventually, you become recognized as the quiet architect behind key operations. You're pulled into strategic conversations about how work should be done. Leadership sees you as someone who thinks systemically, not just tactically. And in transitions or restructuring, your systems are seen as too valuable to lose, along with you. The traps to avoid. You can build systems that nobody uses. You create tools that sit unused because they're too complex, too rigid, or solving problems people don't actually have. The fix: involve users early. Ask what would help. Start with the smallest useful version. Iterate based on real feedback, not your assumptions about what people need. Sometimes people feel criticized by your improvements. They take system changes as a judgment on their competence or their way of working. The fix: frame systems as support and collaboration. Emphasize how their input shaped the design. Show that you're building on their expertise, not replacing it. The most ironic trap: becoming a bottleneck for your own systems. You build something useful, but only you understand how it works, so everything still flows through you. The fix: document clearly. Run short walkthrough sessions. Intentionally train others to maintain and improve the systems without you. Make yourself replaceable in the execution so you can focus on the next level of design. The multiplier effect. Systems multiply your impact beyond your direct hours. A process you design once gets used hundreds of times by dozens of people. A template you create saves 15 minutes for everyone who uses it. A workflow you clarify prevents errors that would have cost hours to fix. This is leverage. You're not just doing work, you're improving how work gets done, and that improvement compounds over time. Each system you build makes the next one easier because you've developed the skill of seeing friction and designing solutions. Each success builds credibility that makes adoption easier. But systems alone still don't make you irreplaceable. You can build brilliant processes and still be undervalued if you're only serving one narrow group. The next level requires expanding your impact in a different dimension, one that makes you essential not just to your immediate team, but to everyone who touches your work. It's about creating value that radiates outward in multiple directions, and it starts with understanding a truth most people never grasp about how organizations actually function. Chapter 7: Stakeholder Value. Here's a question that will tell you everything about your current position. If your boss left tomorrow, would you still have a job? If the answer makes you nervous, you have a problem. You've built your entire value proposition around one person's approval. And that's not security. It's a single point of failure waiting to collapse. Most people optimize for one relationship. They focus on making their manager happy, or their biggest client satisfied, or their team comfortable. They pour all their energy into pleasing one group and assume that's enough. But when that one person leaves, or priorities shift, or budgets get cut, they discover the truth. Single point value is fragile. Linchpins think differently. They don't just serve one direction. They create value up, down, sideways, and outward, all at once. They make life easier for leaders, peers, collaborators, and customers simultaneously. And when you become essential to multiple groups, you become very hard to lose. Because cutting you doesn't just affect one person, it hurts everyone. The web of protection. Think about how organizations actually make decisions about who to keep and who to let go. It's rarely one person deciding in isolation. It's conversations, multiple voices weighing in, different stakeholders advocating for their priorities. When your name comes up, who speaks for you? If it's only your direct manager, you're vulnerable. One voice, no matter how loud, can be overruled. But if multiple people from different parts of the organization say, "We can't lose them, they're critical to what we do," the conversation changes. You're not just one person's preference anymore, you're infrastructure that multiple groups depend on. This is stakeholder symmetry. You've created value that radiates in multiple directions. Your leader trusts you to deliver results without drama. Your peers rely on you for smooth collaboration. Your customers feel understood and supported. Your partners know you'll make their work easier, not harder. Each of these relationships is a thread in a protective web. One thread can break, but when you've woven connections across the entire system, you become central to how things function. And people fight to keep whoever keeps everything working together. This isn't about politics or manipulation. It's about genuinely making multiple groups' lives better. When you do that consistently, you build influence that has nothing to do with your title. People listen to those who help them win. They protect those who make their success possible. The ecosystem approach. Most people see their work as a series of isolated transactions. They complete a task for their boss. They deliver a project to a client. They collaborate with a peer on one initiative. Each interaction is separate, disconnected from the others. But organizations aren't collections of isolated transactions. They're ecosystems. Everything connects. Your leader's success depends on the team's performance. The team's performance depends on smooth collaboration. Smooth collaboration depends on clear processes and mutual support. Customer satisfaction depends on all of it working together. When you understand this, you stop optimizing for one stakeholder at the expense of others. You start looking for actions that create value across the system. You ask, what can I do that helps my leader, supports my peers, and serves our customers, all at the same time? This is where most people get it wrong. They think serving multiple groups means spreading themselves thin, trying to please everyone, and pleasing no one. But that's not what multi-directional value means. It means finding the high-leverage moves that benefit the whole ecosystem, not just one part of it. For leaders, this might mean providing clearer updates that reduce their anxiety and help them make better decisions. For peers, it might mean creating better handoffs that reduce confusion and rework. For customers, it might mean anticipating their questions and providing answers before they have to ask. These aren't separate efforts. They're different expressions of the same principle: reduce friction, increase clarity, make success easier for everyone involved. The dangerous myths. You've been told that your job is to please your boss, make them happy, and everything else will work out. But overserving one person often damages your relationships with others. Your boss might love that you drop everything for them, but your peers resent the chaos it creates. Your customers might suffer because you're too busy managing up to serve them well. Leaders actually value people who support the whole system, not just their immediate needs. Because good leaders know their success depends on the team functioning well, not just on one person being hyper-responsive to them. Multi-stakeholder value often matters more than one person's approval. The opposite myth is equally dangerous, that customers are everything and internal relationships don't matter. You bend over backward for external clients while treating internal colleagues like obstacles. But unhappy internal teams eventually damage customer experience. Sustainable customer value depends on strong internal collaboration. You can't consistently delight customers if you're burning out your team or creating chaos behind the scenes. Then, there's the fear that helping others shine will make you disappear. That if you make your boss look good, or help a peer succeed, or empower a customer to solve their own problems, you'll become invisible. But people remember who helped them win. Making others look good doesn't diminish you. It increases your social capital. You become the force behind others' success, which makes you an insider, not a shadow. Building your stakeholder map. Start simple. List the key people and groups in your world. Your direct leader, your peers and collaborators, your customers or clients, any partners or vendors you work with regularly. Don't overthink it. Just identify who matters to your work and who your work matters to. For each stakeholder, write one sentence. They need most from me. Be specific. Your leader might need reliable execution and early warnings about risks. Your peers might need clear communication and smooth handoffs. Your customers might need responsiveness and feeling understood. Different groups have different priorities. Now look at your list and ask, where are the gaps? Who are you serving well, and who are you neglecting? Where could small improvements create disproportionate value? Prioritize 3 to 5 people or groups where better value would matter most. Then identify your ease of use moves. These are the specific actions that make working with you feel effortless instead of exhausting. For leaders, this might mean proactive updates that answer their questions before they ask. Risk flags that give them time to respond. Solutions presented alongside problems instead of just dumping issues in their lap. For peers and partners, ease of use might mean better documentation so they don't have to chase you for information. Shared resources that make their work easier. Fewer surprises and more predictability. Being the person who connects them with the right people instead of creating bottlenecks. For customers, it might mean clarity about what to expect and when. Responsiveness that makes them feel valued. Communication that shows you understand their actual needs, not just what you want to sell them. Choose one new habit for each major stakeholder group. One thing you'll start doing consistently that makes their life measurably better. Not grand gestures, small, repeatable actions that compound over time. Making it work. Ask stakeholders directly, what would make working with me easier? This question is gold. Most people never ask it. They guess what others need and often guess wrong. When you ask directly and listen without defending, you get valuable data about where you're creating friction and where you could add value. Then implement one suggestion quickly. This shows you took the feedback seriously, it builds trust, and it often reveals other improvements you can make. Become a connector, not just a contributor. Introduce people who should know each other but don't yet. Share resources, templates, or insights that help others do better work. Be the person who says, let me loop in the right person to solve this, instead of trying to handle everything yourself. This connector role is powerful because it creates value without requiring more hours from you. You're not doing the work. You're making it easier for the right people to connect and collaborate. And everyone involved remembers that you made it happen. Speak the language of each stakeholder. Use results and risk language with leaders. They care about outcomes and what could go wrong. Use practical, stepwise language with peers and implementers. They need to know how to actually do the work. Use outcome and experience language with customers. They care about what they'll get and how it will feel. This isn't being fake, it's being considerate. You're translating your value into terms that resonate with what each group cares about most. What changes? At first, different groups notice that working with you feels smoother and more respectful. You get fewer conflicts and misunderstandings. People express relief and gratitude when you're involved in projects because they know you'll make things easier, not harder. As you build momentum, stakeholders start recommending you behind closed doors. Your name comes up in conversations you're not part of. Multiple groups reach out to you first when they need help because they trust you to understand their needs and deliver value. You become known as the glue that keeps initiatives and relationships intact. Eventually, you become a central trusted figure in your ecosystem. When changes happen, restructuring, leadership transitions, budget pressures, multiple powerful voices push to keep you. Not because you're the most talented person in the room, but because you're essential to how multiple groups get their work done. Losing you would hurt too many people. Your network starts bringing you opportunities you could never have engineered alone. Because you've helped so many people succeed, they think of you when good things come up. They want to work with you again. They want to bring you into their next venture. Your multi-directional value compounds into opportunities that feel like luck, but are actually the result of consistent, strategic generosity. The traps to avoid. You can spread yourself too thin. You try to add value to everyone and end up exhausted, delivering mediocre results across the board. The fix. Prioritize high-impact stakeholders and high-leverage actions. You can't serve everyone equally. Focus on the relationships and actions that create the most value with the least energy. Set realistic boundaries on your time and energy. Being valuable to multiple groups doesn't mean being available to everyone all the time. It means being strategic about where you invest your effort. Sometimes you become a crutch instead of an empowerer. People become dependent on you to solve everything. They stop trying to figure things out themselves because it's easier to just ask you. This creates a bottleneck and burns you out. The fix. Shift from rescuing to teaching. Show people how to solve problems instead of always solving them yourself. Build tools and documentation that help others act without your constant involvement. The most frustrating trap is when your extra effort is invisible. You quietly create value, but no one connects it back to you. The fix. Tie your actions to outcomes in your updates. This change reduced response time by 30%, which improved customer satisfaction scores. Share stories of impact in reviews or one-on-ones without bragging. Focus on results and learning, not on how great you are. Periodically review your stakeholder impact. Ask yourself, who is happier because I'm here? How do I know? If you can't point to specific evidence that your efforts are making a difference, adjust. Drop low-impact activities that don't truly move the needle for anyone. Double down on the actions that create real, visible value. The multiplier effect. Multi-directional value creates a flywheel. Each group you serve well becomes an advocate. Each relationship you strengthen opens doors to others. Each problem you solve for one stakeholder often helps others indirectly. The value compounds in ways you can't always predict or control. But there's still one piece missing. You can have a clear identity, take ownership, be reliable, communicate well, build systems, and serve multiple stakeholders, and still fail if who you are under pressure doesn't match who you claim to be. Because when things get hard, when stakes are high, when no one's watching, your true character emerges. And that's when people decide whether their trust in you was justified or misplaced. The final foundation isn't a skill or a strategy. It's something deeper, something that either holds everything together or causes it all to collapse when tested. And it's waiting for you in the next chapter. Chapter 8, Character Engine. You can fake competence for a while. You can fake enthusiasm. You can even fake caring, but you can't fake character under pressure. People are watching, not obviously, not constantly, but in the moments that matter, when deadlines collapse, when conflicts emerge, when no one's looking, when telling the truth costs you something, they're paying attention. And what they see in those moments determines whether they trust you with anything that truly matters. Skills get you in the door. Character determines whether you stay. Because here's what most people miss. Organizations don't just hire capabilities, they hire people. And people come with values, judgment, and choices that reveal themselves over time. Brilliant but untrustworthy people are always the first to go when things get serious. Because no one wants to depend on someone they can't trust when stakes are high. This chapter is about the engine under everything else you've built, the foundation that either holds it all together or causes it to collapse when tested. It's about becoming someone whose word means something, whose judgment can be trusted, and whose presence makes others feel safer, not more anxious. The test you didn't know you were taking. Think about the last time you worked with someone talented but unreliable in their character. Maybe they took credit for others' work. Maybe they threw people under the bus when things went wrong. Maybe they said one thing in meetings and another thing in private. Maybe they were brilliant, but you never quite trusted them. How did that feel? Probably exhausting. You had to constantly verify their claims. You couldn't relax around them. You kept one eye on your back, and when important decisions came up, you probably thought twice about involving them, no matter how skilled they were. Now think about someone whose character you trust completely. Someone who tells you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Someone who owns their mistakes without drama. Someone who keeps their word and treats people fairly, whether anyone's watching or not. That person probably isn't the most talented in every domain, but you'd work with them again in a heartbeat. You'd recommend them. You'd fight to keep them on your team, because steady character makes others relax and commit around you. It creates psychological safety, and that safety is worth more than raw talent. This is why character is your only true long-term competitive edge. Skills can be copied, strategies can be learned, systems can be replicated, but character, the consistent pattern of choices you make when no one's forcing you to do the right thing, that's unique to you, and it's what people remember when everything else fades. What character actually looks like. Character isn't abstract. It's not about being a good person in some vague philosophical sense. It's about specific behaviors in specific moments. Integrity means telling the truth even when it costs you in the short term. It means keeping promises to others and to yourself. It means aligning your actions with your stated values consistently, not just when it's convenient. When you say you'll do something, you do it. When you make a mistake, you admit it. When you don't know, you say so instead of bluffing. This sounds simple. It's not, because integrity often conflicts with immediate self-interest. Telling the truth might lose you a deal. Admitting a mistake might damage your reputation in the moment. Keeping a promise might require sacrifice, but people are watching those moments, and what they see determines whether they ever trust you with anything important. Humility doesn't mean weakness or self-deprecation. It means accepting feedback as fuel instead of an attack. It means admitting gaps in your knowledge without collapsing into insecurity. It means sharing credit generously while still owning your responsibilities. Humble people are easier to work with because they're not defending their ego in every interaction. They're focused on getting better, not on being right. They can hear criticism without shutting down. They can celebrate others' wins without feeling diminished. And that openness makes them better collaborators and faster learners. Courage means facing problems and conflicts early instead of postponing them. It means voicing concerns respectfully when something feels wrong. It means taking risks aligned with your values, not with your ego. Most people avoid difficult conversations until they become crises. They let small issues fester into big resentments. They stay silent when they should speak up because they're afraid of conflict or judgment. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. And people remember who had the guts to address the hard things when everyone else was looking away. The lies that keep you weak. You've been told that nice people finish last, that integrity is for suckers, that you need to be ruthless to win. But there's a massive difference between being kind and being a pushover. Strong character plus competence is the most powerful combination there is. Long-term winners are almost always the people others trust most, because trust opens doors that talent alone never will. The second myth is that avoiding conflict keeps relationships safe. It doesn't. Avoidance lets small issues become big resentments. It creates distance and mistrust. Honest, respectful tension can actually deepen trust when handled well. People remember who had the courage to address problems fairly instead of letting them rot. The third myth is that boundaries are selfish. That saying no makes you difficult or uncommitted, but lack of boundaries leads to resentment and burnout. You can't deliver value consistently if you're exhausted and bitter. Healthy boundaries protect your ability to show up at your best. They're clarity, not rejection. And people respect clear boundaries far more than vague promises you can't keep. Building your character foundation. Start by defining 3 non-negotiable values, not 10, not a list of every virtue you admire. 3 core values you want to be known for. Maybe it's honesty, reliability, and courage. Maybe it's integrity, humility, and fairness. Choose what matters most to you. Write 1 sentence describing each value in your own words. Make it concrete. Honesty means I tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable, and I admit when I don't know something. Courage means I address problems early instead of hoping they'll go away. Then reflect weekly. Did I live these values in my hardest moments? Not in the easy moments when everyone's watching. In the hard moments when you were tempted to cut corners, avoid conflict, or protect your ego. Those are the moments that count. When you face a difficult conversation, use a simple script. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's why it matters. Here's what I suggest. Prepare by writing it out beforehand. This forces you to clarify your thinking and separate facts from emotions. Then deliver it calmly, focusing on shared goals rather than blame. The goal isn't to win or to be right, it's to solve the problem together. Own mistakes the Linchpin way. Quickly acknowledge when you got something wrong. No excuses, no deflection, just clarity about what happened and what you'll do differently. Then explain what you learned and how you'll change your approach. Finally, follow through so people can see your growth in action. This turns mistakes into proof that you're someone who learns and improves, not someone who repeats the same errors. Set and communicate boundaries clearly. Identify where overcommitment is hurting your performance or health. Decide specific limits on your time, scope, and availability that support your best work. Then communicate those boundaries calmly and directly. Here's what I can do. Here's what I can't. Most people will respect clear boundaries, and the ones who don't are showing you who they are. The daily choices that build reputation. Use the if recorded test before making decisions. Ask yourself, would I be okay if this choice were on video and everyone I respect saw it? Use this test for emails, messages, and difficult decisions. It's a simple filter that steers you away from shady shortcuts and toward choices you can defend. When you receive criticism, ask, what part of this is true or useful? Separate the tone from the content. Someone might deliver feedback harshly, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Keep the useful parts. Discard the rest. Then decide 1 small behavior change you'll test based on what you learned. This turns criticism into fuel for improvement instead of a wound to nurse. When you're triggered by gossip, envy, or minor slights, pause for 10 seconds. Ask yourself, will this matter in 6 months? In 5 years? Most of the time, the answer is no. Choose responses that align with your values, not your irritation. This pause is the difference between reacting and responding, between pettiness and maturity. What changes when character becomes your engine? At first, people start describing you as honest and fair, even when they disagree with you. You feel less inner conflict because your choices match your values more often. You recover faster from mistakes because you know how to own them without drowning in shame or defensiveness. As your reputation builds, you're trusted with sensitive information and challenging conversations. Others come to you for advice during difficult situations because they know you'll tell them the truth, not just what they want to hear. Your reputation becomes, they'll tell you the truth and have your back. That's rare, and it's valuable. Eventually, your name becomes associated with integrity and courage in your field. You're pulled into leadership and mentorship roles not because you're the most technically skilled, but because people trust your judgment. In high-stakes moments, people instinctively look to you for direction and calm. Because they know you won't panic, won't lie, and won't abandon your principles when things get hard. The traps that destroy character. You can confuse bluntness with honesty. You say harsh truths in ways that damage relationships and call it just being honest. But honesty without kindness is cruelty. Aim for clear and kind. Focus on behavior and impact, not on attacking someone's identity. Use the hard thing script to structure difficult messages so they land as helpful instead of hurtful. You can fail to set boundaries and grow resentful. You constantly say yes, then secretly grow bitter about all the demands on your time. Start with one small boundary and practice saying it calmly. Remember that sustainable contribution requires protected capacity. You can't pour from an empty cup, and pretending you can just makes you angry and ineffective. Sometimes standing by your values costs you an opportunity or approval in the short term. Someone wants you to cut a corner, to fudge the numbers, to stay silent when you should speak up. And saying no might cost you the deal, the promotion, the relationship. Reframe this as investing in long-term reputation and self-respect, because the short-term win isn't worth the long-term damage to your character. And people who respect you will remember that you had the courage to do the right thing when it mattered. The compound effect of character. Character compounds over time in ways that skills never do. Each choice to tell the truth builds trust. Each mistake owned and corrected demonstrates maturity. Each boundary held shows self-respect. Each difficult conversation handled well deepens relationships. Small choices accumulate into a powerful brand of who you are. People start to know what you stand for. They know what to expect from you. They know you won't betray them when things get hard. And that knowledge creates a foundation of trust that can weather almost anything. This is what makes your reputation anti-fragile. When you have a strong character foundation, occasional failures don't destroy you. They become opportunities to demonstrate how you handle adversity. People see you own your mistakes, learn from them, and come back stronger. And that actually increases their trust in you. But character alone, while essential, is still just one piece. You've built identity, ownership, reliability, communication, systems, stakeholder value, and now character. Each piece strengthens the others. Each creates leverage that compounds over time. And when you put them all together, something powerful emerges. Something that transforms how you move through your career and your life. The final chapter will show you how these pieces integrate into a single, unstoppable force that makes you not just irreplaceable, but always in demand. Chapter 9, Always in Demand. You're not the same person who started this book. You might not feel dramatically different yet, but something has shifted. You now see the game differently. You understand that being good at your job was never enough. That competence without strategy is just expensive effort. That the world doesn't owe you security, you have to build it yourself. And now you know how. Everything you've learned comes down to one simple formula. Irreplaceability equals distinct value plus consistent delivery plus deep trust. That's it. Not luck, not politics, not who you know. Just 3 things you can control, build, and compound over time. Each chapter gave you one piece of this formula. Your identity creates distinct value. You're not just another worker. You're the person who solves specific problems in ways others can't. Your ownership and reliability create consistent delivery. People know you'll follow through without drama. Your communication, systems, stakeholder value, and character create deep trust. People feel safe betting on you because you've proven you won't let them down. These aren't separate skills. They're interconnected pieces of a single system. Identity informs ownership, which drives reliability. Reliability makes your communication and systems believable. Systems and stakeholder value multiply your impact, and character holds all of it together when pressure hits. Small, repeated acts created this. Not grand gestures, not one big breakthrough, just daily choices to be clearer, more responsible, more reliable, more helpful, and more honest than you were yesterday. That's how linchpins are built, one decision at a time. The power you now hold. You no longer have to hope for luck or wait for permission. You have practical levers you can pull in any job, business, or project. You can walk into a new context and immediately start building value that people notice and depend on. Feel the difference between "I hope they pick me" and "I'm building undeniable value." One is passive, anxious, dependent on forces outside your control. The other is active, confident, grounded in what you can actually do. In chaotic environments, and let's be honest, most environments are chaotic, linchpins become even more valuable. When everything's uncertain, people cling to whoever brings clarity, reliability, and calm. Your ability to own outcomes, deliver consistently, and improve systems becomes a stabilizing force that everyone around you desperately needs. You now have a repeatable playbook. You can take these principles into any role, any industry, any team, because they're not tactics tied to one specific context. They're fundamental truths about how value, trust, and influence actually work. But the deepest shift isn't external, it's internal. You're building a self-respect you can't fake, the confidence that comes from doing work that matters, the quiet pride of knowing your actions match your standards. You're becoming someone who can be counted on, by others, yes, but more importantly, by yourself. That changes everything, because when you trust yourself to handle what comes, fear loses its grip. You stop playing small to avoid failure. You stop hiding to avoid judgment. You start taking the risks that actually matter because you know that even if things go wrong, you'll own it, learn from it, and come back stronger. How everything changes. Your relationships transform. Reliability and honesty reduce tension and misunderstandings. People relax around you because they know you'll tell them the truth and keep your word. Conflicts still happen, but they're driven by genuine disagreements about direction, not by poor communication or unmet expectations. You become the person people lean on. They turn to you for calm, clarity, and solutions. Not because you have all the answers, but because you have the character to face problems honestly and the systems to handle them effectively. Being relied on stops feeling like a burden when boundaries and systems support you. It becomes a source of meaning. Your connections deepen. Integrity and courage invite mutual respect. You have more honest conversations and fewer hidden resentments. People admire those who consistently make others' lives better, and you've become that person. Not perfect, not flawless, just consistently trying to leave things better than you found them. What becomes possible? You can now negotiate from strength. When you ask for a raise, better terms, or different conditions, you're not begging, you're presenting evidence of your linchpin value. And if the answer is no, you can walk away knowing you can create value elsewhere. That's freedom. You can design work agreements that serve both you and your stakeholders, because you understand what creates value for them and what protects your capacity to deliver. You're not just accepting whatever's offered, you're shaping the terms of engagement. You can move between roles and contexts confidently. Switching jobs, industries, or client bases becomes less terrifying because your skills are portable. You're not dependent on one specific situation. You can enter new teams and quickly become the trusted backbone because you know how to build trust, deliver value, and improve systems wherever you go. You can start or grow a business with systems, ownership, and stakeholder value as your foundation. You're not just winging it and hoping for the best. You have a framework for creating sustainable value that people will pay for. You can launch bolder projects, take on initiatives you previously felt not ready for, because you trust that your systems, communication, and character will carry you through uncertainty. You're not waiting to feel completely prepared. You're moving forward with the tools you have and building the rest as you go. You can create work that truly reflects your identity instead of settling for what's offered, because you're no longer desperate for any opportunity. You're selective about where you invest your energy, choosing projects and people that align with who you're becoming. The flywheel effect. Here's what makes this approach so powerful. Each improvement reinforces the others over time. This is the linchpin flywheel. Better identity clarity makes better opportunities easier to spot. You stop wasting energy on things that don't fit and start focusing on work that compounds your unique value. That focus makes you more effective, which builds your reputation, which attracts even better opportunities. Reliability in systems reduce stress and rework. You spend less time firefighting and more time building, less time explaining and more time executing, less time fixing the same problems and more time solving new ones. Every kept promise and every improved process builds your brand. People start to know what you stand for and what they can expect from you. That knowledge creates trust, and trust creates opportunities that require less convincing and selling. Your network starts doing the reputational work for you. People recommend you without being asked. They think of you first when good things come up. Your effort shifts from heavy lifting to fine-tuning. You move from constantly reacting to occasionally adjusting, from doing everything yourself to designing systems that work without you, from proving yourself over and over to being the obvious choice. You spend more time choosing the right problems and people instead of accepting whatever comes your way. You use your energy for strategic decisions instead of redoing basic work. You become more effective with less effort because you've built infrastructure that multiplies your impact. This compounds over years. The linchpin you become at 30 is more valuable than the one at 25. The one at 40 is more valuable than the one at 30. Not because you're working harder, but because you've accumulated trust, systems, and relationships that do work for you. Your first move. You don't need to do everything at once. You just need to start. In the next 24 hours, choose one linchpin move. Write or refine your irreplaceable sentence. One clear statement of who you are when you're most valuable. Make one visible ownership move on a current project. Volunteer for a deliverable. Propose a solution. Take responsibility for an outcome. Send one clear, proactive update to reduce uncertainty for someone who's waiting on you. Just one move, that's all. Because motion creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. Then commit to a 30-day linchpin experiment. Pick one chapter as your focus. Maybe it's identity because you need clarity on your unique value. Maybe it's reliability because you keep dropping balls. Maybe it's systems because you're tired of fixing the same problems repeatedly. Choose one. Define one daily or weekly action from that chapter. Something small enough that you can do it consistently, but meaningful enough that it will create visible change. Then track what happens. Notice how people respond to you. Notice how you feel about yourself. Use that feedback to refine your approach. Tell someone what you're doing. Share your intention with a trusted ally. Ask them to notice changes and reflect them back to you. This creates accountability and gives you an outside perspective on your progress. Use their feedback as fuel to keep going. The choice in front of you. Picture yourself 5 years from now if nothing changes. Same worries about job security, same anxiety about being overlooked, same frustration of doing everything right but still feeling replaceable. Same quiet fear that one bad quarter, one leadership change, one budget cut could wipe you out. Is that acceptable to you? If the answer is no, and it should be no, then decide right now that you're done with that future. Use that discomfort as ignition, not as a reason to shut down. Let it fuel your commitment to becoming someone people fight to keep. Choose the linchpin path today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, today. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be in motion. Every linchpin started where you are, uncertain but willing, competent but replaceable, frustrated but not yet defeated. The only difference between them and the people who stayed stuck is that they started. They took the first step, then the second, then the third. Tell yourself, I am building someone people fight to keep, starting now, not someday, not eventually, now. The truth about small actions. Each honest conversation matters. Each kept promise matters. Each improved system matters. You might not see the impact immediately, but trust that it's accumulating. Every day is another rep in becoming irreplaceable. You're not trying to transform overnight. You're building a pattern of behavior that over time becomes your identity. People will start to see you differently because you are different. Not because you faked it, but because you did the work. Walk forward with quiet confidence, not arrogance, not certainty that everything will work perfectly. just the calm knowledge that you're building something real, something that can't be taken away by one person's decision or one company's restructuring. You're building a reputation that travels with you, skills that compound over time, relationships that open doors you can't even see yet. And most importantly, you're building self-respect that comes from knowing you're doing work that matters in ways that align with your values. The final truth. If you keep doing this work, if you keep clarifying your identity, taking ownership, delivering reliably, communicating clearly, building systems, serving stakeholders, and anchoring it all in character, the world will not be able to ignore you. Not because you're the loudest, not because you're the most talented, but because you've made yourself essential. You've become the person who makes things work, the one who can be trusted when it matters, the one who leaves everything better than they found it. That person is always in demand, in good times and bad, in growth and in crisis, across industries, roles, and contexts. Because that person solves the fundamental problem every organization, every team, every leader faces. How do we get important things done with people we can trust? You're becoming the answer to that question. The path is clear. The tools are in your hands. The choice is yours. Start now. Start small, but start. Because somewhere out there, someone needs exactly what you're building. A team that needs your reliability. A leader who needs your ownership. A customer who needs your care. A project that needs your systems. A crisis that needs your character. They're looking for you. They just don't know your name yet. Make yourself impossible to miss. Make yourself painful to lose. Make yourself the linchpin. The world is waiting.